Okay, we will call to order the April 14th, 2022 Danby Select Board meeting. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Haines. Fuller. Here. Abbott.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Bender. Here. I will entertain a motion to set the agenda. I've added some additions that came in since we published it. And under Road Commissioner's report, please strike structures grant. That's already been taken care of. Are there any other changes to the agenda that you'd like to see?
I guess my question is, under employees' holidays, is that a topic that we can discuss in the, or is that
Could you give us a little more, is that something that you want us to go into executive session and discuss, or?
So I calculated personal time and vacation time for all the employees, and I was gonna add it to payroll. But I wanted you guys to see it before I actually updated payroll to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so I guess if people have questions about it, then we'd have to go into executive session and discuss it.
I'm assuming everything's calculated based on the contract anyways.
It's my take of the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, would somebody care to make
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of setting the agenda with the corrections, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of March 10th, 2022 and the minutes of March 25th, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second on the one. I wasn't at the other, so I have trouble.
Do you want to break them apart then?
Well, unless Kenny wants the second. Were you at both?
March 25th, when we had the emergency meeting too.
Right, yes. Yeah, I was at both, yes.
So why don't you second it?
Yeah, I'll second it for both.
Tom can abstain when we vote. Any corrections to those minutes? Okay. All those, well, let's poll the board since we have a question there. Fuller?
On the 10th, aye. Did you want both of them, or?
Yeah, we did it as both.
Yeah, so I'm gonna abstain on the second one. I wasn't there.
Abbott?
Good.
Powers?
Yes.
Bender? Yes. So the minutes are adopted. Public, do you have items that you would like to discuss? Chris?
Hi, Chris Hardaway, and I just want to make sure that the board was going to make the election on April 30th for the town to take the standard allowance on the ARPA funding so we don't lose the $130,000. Didn't see it in the minutes, so.
That we were going to do what?
You have to do something by April 30th.
We have to file a report.
That's right. And at that point, you have to make the election, if you're going to do so, where you get the automatic presumption that you've already spent the COVID money. As far as I read it, I went to public school, so I'm wanting to know what you guys think. That election has to be made in order for us to get that money to be used on government services.
Well, we were planning to discuss it under the treasurer's report.
Oh, I didn't see it. That's great. That's, if you have that.
Oh, yeah, on the corrected agenda there.
Okay, so you guys are gonna make the report on April 30th, making the election and making sure we don't lose the money, right?
Or, yes, or
All
before.
in one, great. Keep up the good work, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
What was his last name?
About the ARPA funds, there's
Hardaway?
Hardaway. There's a report that has to be filed
I should need his last name. Can you come over there?
by April 30th.
And was that the report that, Tommy, you had said you'll do it because you were good at government reports?
I thank you, Beth, for reminding me, but I did say that I think we should do it. And if nobody else would do it, but I was hoping that we would just let that get done by the treasurer, but since there's really.
I don't know, I'm just,
Okay, let's
Remember-
save the discussion of that for where we have it listed on the agenda. Is there any other issues that the public wishes to comment on at this time or have us include in discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. I do not see Mrs. Taylor here to give us a report on the Planning Commission. Greg, did you want to add anything on there? Or Mike?
We had a meeting last week. There's really not much going on at the moment. The next meeting will be in October due to scheduling conflicts over the summer.
Okay,
And we're gonna we're gonna look at, I know the town plan was just adopted a year ago or 2 years ago, but we were just gonna start looking at it. Everybody that's on the commission was just gonna look at it and maybe start a preliminary review for the next round.
okay. I have had several emails from Mrs. Mickelburst, who has a business on Main Street, and they are concerned about the signage on Route 7 with the state signs and whatnot. They don't seem to be getting too much help from the state, and they're being told that the number of business signs are limited. So I was going to pass this on to Shelley
Okay.
to look into, and they're thinking of maybe redoing that sign that the Latsons made some years ago. But I explained to her that Vermont has a billboard law, so it can't be advertising specific businesses. That's why it's just a generic sign that says Danby with an arrow and some nice artwork. But that might be something that the Planning Commission
Yeah,
wants to address under economic development.
certainly.
Okay, then we'll go on with the treasurer's report.
I have a question
Oh, I'm sorry.
about Planning Commission. I read under new business that you were gonna start to review and look over the town plan. Is that what you were just speaking about?
Yes,
Okay, why? It's not due till 2028.
some of the people weren't on the board at the time the plan went through, so we're just looking at it. We're just gonna review it, so everybody's familiar with it. We've got a lot of stuff coming up to deal with the rivers, whether we want to or not, because of Lake Champlain, so we're just, the planning committee just want everybody on board with the plan, so they know what's there, what we're getting into. We're not trying to make any big changes.
Well, and
But are you going to change it at all?
We're not, we're looking at it, making sure everybody's familiar with it, so we know what's going on.
and the plan is, you might say, a living document. For instance, a number of years ago, we had a gentleman that wanted to open a business in town, which he did. After the Planning Commission reviewed the sections of town that would be suitable for business and changed the maps. So a plan can be amended at any time. Okay, are we set to move on to the treasurer's report?
Did anybody have any questions on the budget status report?
I did not.
Okay.
Did anybody else have it?
No.
Budget status is...
Okay. So when the outside auditors did the audit, they recommended, doing like a procedure book for all of the positions. So I have started my procedure book. I sent you guys an accounts payable process procedure. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a heads up. This is the process that we currently have. I have you listed as reviewing all town garage expense invoices. Tom is currently doing that. And then, basically the check signer will review all invoices, costs, and verify invoice amounts, match what is being paid. And since I was putting that into the process, I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay with that.
I liked what you wrote. I thought it was very efficient.
Yes, and it gives you you get your checks and balances there in the system.
And everything's accounted for.
Yeah.
The one thing that I haven't incorporated in my process is the purchasing policy, which involves like the purchase orders, the written quotes, and the competitive bidding. So I wanted to make sure that the purchasing policy that I gave you is up to date, and this is what you guys want it to be.
Well, we just reviewed that last year.
Is this what we voted on?
Well, I
here?
guess my only question, since I do a lot of the purchasing, is how do you want to do the purchase orders? Because not saying that the crew and I have to purchase things in weird hours of the days.
That's one reason why I don't know if the purchase orders is really gonna work. Because if the guys need a set of tires, they're not gonna write out a purchase order, bring it in to me before they order it. They're gonna just order it.
Well, and if it's something that's a maintenance item that's not a breakdown or something, but what I'm finding is we don't schedule the breakdowns to coincide with being able to get a purchase order. So as you're aware of is, we have to order the parts immediately. So I'm not sure how the board, if, we can, it's tough to do an after the fact purchase. I mean, I guess it's up to everybody. I mean, because we can get the quote and give you the number afterwards, but it is, I mean, we might as well bring it to its attention since we're discussing it, is that does happen frequently.
And I believe when we were talking about this, anything you had to purchase unexpectedly was kind of an exemption anyways.
Right. Okay.
But, I think the premise of it, on a for normal purchase, planning purchase or planned purchases to have it's a good way to keep track of things.
Right. Yeah, no, and I mean, that's the thing is the good news is we don't have, $200,000 worth of monthly purchases that get thrown at us. You're probably talking $2,000 in a month that she didn't have a purchase order on that we actually had to buy, like I know on the grader parts the other day, ordering them, so.
I know when I worked for Pike, a lot of times you would rush around, you'd need a PO number, you'd get the part on its way and you'd do it backwards, get the PO number after.
And I wasn't sure, since our current process is, Tom, you see all of the garage invoices. So
Right, so that we're I think the purchase order, the only thing that would do, which is kind of back to the thing, is if we had a large amount and a limited amount of cash that we were, but the other end, you're right, is, I see all of the invoices anyways, so it's not like we're, Kat sent us a bill for something that we didn't get and Jen just goes ahead and pays it.
Yeah,
So-
we get to like May of the year and we see what percent of the budget has been spent. That's the time to let people know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still, we're back to the thing is if the grader breaks and it's grading season, we're getting parts whatever day of the week that is.
Another account.
But yeah, I guess I just wanted to bring that up to everyone's attention that we do have a small tweaking of that, but I guess it's like Mike said, under the emergency, thing, we kinda,
Well, we covered that, so you wouldn't be stuck without being able to.
And do you think the $250 is a good limit, like with the price of everything nowadays? Like, do you think we should raise that to $1,000, or do you think the $250 is a good number?
well,
I like the 250 because that way that keeps control on your little things.
Okay.
I mean, granted, like right now, we don't really have anywhere the town crew's gonna go in town other than maybe Charlie's to get anything
right.
anyways without planning ahead, but.
And I believe we upped it to 250
Yes, we did.
from 50 or something.
And maybe we can discuss later on how to, we can have like a few available, like whatever number, 365, 366 and 367, you put them aside for us, so every time we do a thing, and then we can just give you it as a, when you are in, instead of us try to get one from you.
Okay.
I know
Yeah, I like-
Pike gives
I like
their
that idea.
mechanics, I think they get, each road mechanic gets 10 a day issued to them first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
so they'll have them if they need them.
Yeah, no, I would sure we could probably make 10 a
Yeah.
week work.
But, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we could do that, we could have them available, so I'm sure we can make something work without getting too complicated.
And do we have an actual purchase order form?
Janice hands in purchase orders to me, so they have like a book. I'm assuming it's like a 2-part book that's numbered, and she just gives me the top copy.
Okay.
Okay. Alright. I also sent you, the current pay rates and, vacation, personal time, and holiday information. I'm working on my, accounts, or my payroll binder, and I just think that if somebody were to have to take over for me, knowing what everybody makes on one sheet of paper is very helpful.
Yes.
I forgot to list my assistant and then like the dump day, like what they should get. So I will add that.
Did you give a copy of this to each crew member, each of their individual things, or in their, do you think we should, just to make sure they agree with it?
We could. I will be honest with you, on the part-time employees, I was a little, the contract doesn't really address the part-time people, or the part-time positions. So I did my take of the contract, and I put it on paper for you guys.
Yeah, but I was just wondering with, like Larry and Randy, if they are aware of what they...
I can go over that with them if you...
I think it would be a good idea to give it to them, so if there is any
They have a heads up.
discussion that we can get it solved now rather than 6 months or a year or 2 years from now.
Because I know we had the issue with the
Right.
personal time.
Yes.
And so if we do this ahead of time, maybe it'll not end up being that way.
And I did talk to Ray, and they are supposed to receive it as of January 1st, not their hire date. The hire date is for calculation purpose only, but you're supposed to update it January 1st. So if you guys review those 2 sheets, if you have any changes, just let me know so I can we'll update it. I wanted to check, Bob, is he done May 1st?
Yes.
He is, okay. And then I had a question about the credit card. Right now, our current limit is $5,000, and Tom has a card and I have a card, and we both have a $2,500 limit. And I've noticed with my card, I'm like constantly paying the credit card before the month is up because I don't have enough limit. So I talked to Lori at the bank, and she said that Tom and I can share the $5,000, but if I were to use $4,000 and then Tom needed more, he wouldn't have it available. We could either do it that way, or we could actually up our credit card limit.
Well, do you think 5,000 is enough for you?
5,000 would definitely be enough for me.
Then I think that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, we got that one, but we haven't used it, or haven't used it, so.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
I mean, I think we can make it work that way. If it,
Yeah, because most of your purchases are going to be
Through an
a
account
company that we have.
that we already have, yeah.
Okay, so the other thing I had was, in order to set up the retirement plan, we have to fill out some paperwork. And I sent you guys a copy of the forms that they're asking us to fill out. There is one that actually defines who qualifies for the plan, who's going to be allowed to participate in the plan. And I thought that information should come from the board. Would you like me to give you a copy of the form and we can go through it? Or do you want me to read the questions, or how would you like to do this?
Can you print us copies of that, Jen, just to make it easy? Thank you. I did look at it when you sent it to me the other day.
Do you have your keys for next door?
You can't do it on that one? Oh, because it doesn't.
Yeah. And do you guys want to move on with the meeting and we'll come back to this?
Well, we need to talk with you about ARPA, so.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that first?
No, why don't we just do the fleet permits while we're waiting?
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. That's easy enough. Okay, so on the fleet permits, we had one more come in, which was Davenport Excavating. So I would entertain a motion to award fleet permits to all those companies that are listed, including Davenport Excavation.
Do you think you should read them, probably for the record?
I can if you wish. Herman Construction, Pike Industries, Belden Construction, Camp Precast Concrete, Driscoll Brothers, Miles Lumber, Wind River Environmental, Sargent Concrete and Construction, A. Johnson Company, Brown's Welding, Cota and Cota, Bacon Sales Acquisitions, HOP Energy, and Davenport Excavation.
I think it was Beacon, but.
Beacon, I'm sorry. Beacon Sales.
I'll make the motion that we approve the fleet permits for all the ones listed.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Fuller, seconded by Powers. Any discussion? All those in favor of awarding these fleet permits, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We can do another easy one while we're at it. How about a motion to approve the Otter Creek Campground liquor license?
I'll make the motion that we approve the Otter Creek Campground liquor license.
I'll second that.
Motion is made by Fuller, seconded by Abbott to approve the liquor license for Otter Creek Campground. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, back at our...
Thank you, Jim.
retirement plan. So to be in concert with the contract, the plan year is going to be January 1 to December 31, right?
Now, under the eligibility requirements, we can make it just full-time employees?
Yes. But according to the contract, our part-time employees qualify for it also.
But I'm talking more or less the elected employees, that we can
Oh,
make it a full-time thing so that it excludes anyone who's not a,
So I took this question as, who are we gonna allow to participate in the actual plan? And then there's another question that says something about town match.
Well, yeah, cause you got participation, then you got who the town is putting in for.
Yes.
Or is that two different places on here, or is that all in this question, Jen?
On page 3, there's employer match.
but back to the
Yeah, that part.
3, the eligibility. I mean, we can make it so it's full-time employees. So that excludes everybody who isn't full-time.
So are we defining full-time as in, like,
40 hours a week.
right, but under the contract, other people are eligible.
Who else is eligible who's not
Well, that-
full-time?
that's You're eligible because of the contract.
Would they fall under a grant? See, could we, see, under the contract, it's, you know, there was people grandfathered in. And, but would we be able to just grandfather them in?
Well, the contract's one thing, but then you got, I don't know what the law is.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they're giving us the option here.
It
so-
seems like it would fit under salaried employees, right?
No, because they're not salaried. If we didn't, these guys aren't salaried, they're just
Oh, but
Hourly crews, full-time, or
yeah, but they're hourly.
hourly.
They're not salary.
But are we contributing to the town clerk's plan right now, Jack? So she would be kind of under a salaried employee, even though she's elected, because she gets flat.
So we could go with full-time salaried. So we don't have to let, by law, everybody in.
Right.
Well, I'm not, that's
Well,
what I'm trying to get.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question.
but I don't think like the auditors and listers who work at a random basis have to be, because they're not regular employees, where Jen and Janice per se work.
Well, I guess I don't want to answer that.
I'm just, I'm speculating here.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is, on some of the laws governing this,
Yeah, see, I don't know if we have to offer it to everyone, if we offer it to anyone.
So, the person that emailed the forms to me, her name is Angie, and she said that she'd be more than happy to set up a meeting with us and go through all the paperwork and answer all of our questions.
Now, can we get this started and make changes as we go, or?
I don't know, I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if, like, once the plan is in place, that's how it is, or? But
I would think that every year you would have a,
So we
about
should.
the same thing. I guess I'm not gonna answer anything without knowing. I mean, I think someone from the company should help fill this out.
I think we gotta have
Well, we're paying the money to administer the plan should be able to.
we have gotta have clarification on who is and who isn't eligible
So would you like me to
legally.
set up a meeting?
Now, did you guys, did you do a conference call on this one or no?
Yes.
And could you not do it again and just go over this with her? Or do you think the board needs to be involved in it too?
I think the board should be involved because I don't think I should be, deciding who.
Well, not to cut you off, the only thing I want to know is it legal for us to exclude certain employees?
Okay, would she be available tomorrow, Jen, or do you know when the availability is?
I can email her and, set up a time.
Because I could call her tomorrow,
Okay.
or even Monday afternoon, either one. I could be willing to talk to her.
I mean, because some of these are pretty easy questions,
Yeah.
but then there's the ones that are, can we exclude certain people?
Yeah, I just started, I have no problem giving her a call and asking the questions.
Yeah,
Get back
just
to
go
you
over it.
guys.
Cool.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
You get some clarification on.
Yeah, I just wanna get this going for the
eligibility.
people that are,
Yeah,
get everybody into it.
thank you, Mike. Okay, so then the big question is the ARPA money. Have you received, is there like a blank form that has to be filled out for this report, or how is that working?
The only thing I've seen is, I went on a website, I think it was Vermont League Cities and Towns, and they have like a little pamphlet. It's 11 pages. I was gonna read through that this week and see how to actually do it and fill out the paperwork and stuff.
Okay.
And I can send you guys the link if you guys are interested in looking at it.
No, you guys did the webinar, right? The two of you?
But things have changed since then.
And I see we got a new email 2 days ago from Vermont League of Cities and Towns about this, and
And they've actually changed for the better, because my big concern was, what we learned in the webinar was that you had to prove that you were damaged by COVID. So in other words, a business went out of business or something like that. Now they have dropped that requirement, and Treasury is saying everybody was damaged by COVID. So now just come forth with projects, which is, I think, good.
yes.
So that opens eligibility for a lot of different stuff. Nice.
Now, Chris was talking about the electing part of that. Are you guys aware of what?
So I'm taking it that he means electing projects to complete?
I think so.
I guess I wished he didn't just take off after he...
Is that the language they use in the materials? They talk about electing projects?
I didn't see that word used, but some of the materials get rather weighty to read, and one tends to skim.
Okay, yeah, because right here, they got some, oh, come on, I just had it up. I
When
lost
these
it.
UI wage reports due soon, really?
Because right there, it tells you a little bit of what first deadline is, April 30th. Department Treasury recommends that all recipients with an award less than 10 million should make a one-time decision to elect a standard allowance for revenue loss and spend their funds on the provision of government services. And if you.
So under the
intend to do that,
standard of amount for revenue loss, we would take the full amount.
Yes,
So we would have to do that as the board, make the, whatever the amount is. So that may be something that we're gonna wanna do pre-April 30th.
So is this, are we electing to spend the money that we have already received?
Well, I think,
Or is it
okay.
other monies that we
You've got a
would like in addition?
one-time election to go through the form or just claim standard amount. So basically, the standard amount is 10 million, so if we claim the standard,
we would be under
we're
the,
covered.
Right.
From what, and I will read this in detail tomorrow.
I guess the only thing that I'm thinking is we may have to do that as a board, I would
We may
assume.
have to call a special meeting to do it.
Yeah, because that probably should be,
I will study that up some more in the morning. Where I can open it up on something bigger than my phone.
Maybe 2 sentences and move on.
From what you're reading on the League of Cities and Towns, it doesn't look like.
make this election during the April 30th, 20 reporting period.
Paperwork,
No,
For deadline ARPA fund.
because we got so little, we're getting 400,000, not 10 million.
but
We'll take the 10 million standard allowance approach. You must make
What
the
I'm
election during the April. Yeah, so we're gonna take the standard amount. We could probably,
so do you see a form on there? Because that's what's kind of concerning me. I mean, you fill out a form for income taxes and you fill out a form for this, that, and the other thing, but here I don't
We've just got to.
see a form.
Spend the money in order to get it.
Yeah,
looks like you gotta create an account, log in here, access the treasury portal, just like anything. It's probably dual verification. They send you a thing to your phone, you log in. Yeah.
So it is.
I don't know. I mean, it's up to you guys. We can either elect to take the standard allowance, or we can probably just,
if you go the other way, you gotta have facts and figures.
right,
So I would
I
take the standard allowance.
would say we take the standard allowance and go.
if I elect the 10 million standard allowance for the revenue loss, does this change my award amount? Electing the standard allowance does not increase or decrease a recipient's total allocation. Got a nice little answer
Yeah,
thing here. There.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
I guess I'm okay with having a special meeting between now and the 30th, just so that we can make sure we do this,
So that we haven't missed anything,
yeah.
rather than make a motion tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we could make a motion, but we may end up adding something to the motion. And if we do anyways, we might as well. Yeah,
Okay, we can have
glad
another
Chris
one
brought
of
that
our,
up, because,
we can have another one of our noontime 5-minute meetings. Do you want to schedule that for
Okay, next week, I'm gonna be out of town from Thursday to Sunday, or Thursday after.
this coming week? Yeah, and this coming week's not good for me either. So then we are on the last week of April already, I believe. So,
well, do we actually have to schedule it? And maybe we can just do it by, I mean, if,
Yeah, I guess we just gotta be in agreement on how we're filling out the form. I don't know if we need a meeting. I mean, if we do it by email.
well, we're gonna have to do it as a vote.
yeah, we have to
But
do it
I
as
just
a
didn't know
vote,
if
so
we
it
were-
has to be
Yeah, I guess we
advertised
should.
and so forth.
Well, why don't we move on?
Well, I'm trying to think that we can, because you have to advertise the meeting and whatnot, so.
I'll do it on the 28th and we'll just.
Well, 28th's pretty late in the week. Would you
Yeah.
be able to do it on Tuesday, the 26th? I know I have other obligations on Monday.
I can call you call in, or one of you guys can call me, I can do it that way. I have no problem with it otherwise.
Have you looked at any of this?
I read through it briefly, but, I mean, it doesn't look like there's too much to it.
No.
Are you gonna be able to fill it out, or are you gonna need our help to fill it out?
Let me relook at it and
Okay,
make sure I
no.
have the information.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you set up your little portal
account.
and go in, I don't think it should be that much, like we said, to fill out the. So what are you guys doing? We're gonna go with,
The 26th
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
at noon time or 1 o'clock, which is better?
Whatever you guys, whatever works, I'll call in.
Yeah, I'll make
I
it
can
work.
make it work.
Noon time?
That's, yep, that's fine with me.
Okay.
What'd you decide, Paul?
What's that?
Did you decide at noon?
Noon time, yes. So 4/26. Okay,
And that'll give us enough time to get all the paperwork and get everything done.
yeah, because
And
it's
still be-
all electronic.
So it should go right through quick. As long as there's no glitches.
Is this gonna be like a meeting in here, or is it gonna be by phone?
it'll be here,
No, it'll be here.
it'll be warned.
Noticed. And it will be probably very short and sweet. It's just to decide whether we want to take the standard allowance or come up with specific numbers. So Mike's gonna read that over tomorrow, get back to us, and then we'll have time to think about anything if you discover some hidden
Yeah.
stuff in there that concerns us. Okay, anything else from the Treasury Department? Okay, then we will move on to the Road Commissioner's report, and we have to sign a financial plan on the highways. And that's the
It just says what we spend a year on, whatever, and
This is the Otter Creek liquor license that needs to be signed.
the road commissioner's report, our grader has broken down, but we've got the parts ordered. It should be up and going here Monday. We hope to have all the parts for it. So if you didn't get your road graded, that's why, because we started the initial grading last week. We started using our aphids, which are the flaggers. They're the stoplights that set up with GPS, and we were cutting brush on Parish Hill right now. They work really good.
Oh, good.
And that's about all we got going. Is we made it through the winter. We were under budget by a couple grand. So that's it.
How old's that grader now?
What is it, 98?
That's getting old.
Yeah, 2008, 2008, yeah.
24.
24 years old. Yeah, I mean, in general, it's not in bad shape.
I was just curious.
It just, I mean, our sinking fund, I think, needs to have a little bit more in it before graders are, you know.
They're a lot of money, yeah.
Yeah, for $350,000, so.
No, I was just curious how old that was.
Yeah, no, this one, it's gonna get new shims put in the blade when we put the parts in it.
What did end up breaking?
It's called the governor rod, which all it is a big long threaded rod that kind of holds your hooks your moldboard to your what's your turntable there. So, and one of the bolts, I mean they're 2-inch bolts.
Yeah.
So they're a big bolt threaded rod. And the problem is when you take that out, there's a lot of other pieces and parts that kind of you have to replace as you're.
Yeah.
Forcefully taking them out.
Yeah, well, it's just, I mean, it's one of them disassembly things that.
When you get into it, you fix it right.
Yeah. No, and the nice thing, like I said, is his mower board shims were all worn out, so now he's getting new shims, so maybe you'll get a little less chatter out of his blade.
How long does it take to do like, how long does it take to take one run through each road? Without, obviously, without the breakdowns.
Like, he'll do like Danby Hill and started up Calvin Hill in one day.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like Scottsville, that Rockwell Hill around to Baker Brook will be a day. And then you know, Calvin Hill and probably Staples Road a day. So and West Side is 2 days. So we're 5, 6, and then all those roads that we don't grade. I don't know, do you know any of them?
No, I think you guys did twice last year.
Yeah, I went up Danby Mountain Road the other day.
Well, that was the one that they were headed to Monday morning when he found the broken piece, so, because that was the last highly traveled day, got all the others. And the west side I went to before we went to Danby Mountain, just because some people had called on from the west side, and we would have had Danby Mountain done, but it'll get done Monday. Yeah, it does, and that's the thing is, it's for a road out in the middle of nowhere, it gets a lot of cars back and forth.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, we have received a petition on March 29th, which is within 60 days of town meeting, to reconsider Article 8, and this petition was signed by Sharon and Douglas White, William Burton, William Lake, Don Chandler, Bonnie Chandler, Douglas Wood, Roger and Patricia Bromley, Samantha Pierce, William and Karen Gwads, Barbara and Paul Siegel, M. Kingsley, Glenn Williams, Carol Walsh, Tracy and Richard Porter, Brian and Barbara Martin, William and Ingrid Halligan, Terry Parker, Christopher Hardaway, Andrea Mickelburst, Donald Hinkle, Derek Knutson, and again by Susan Hinkle and Susan Kantorsky, Elizabeth Thompson, Holly McClellan, Becky Eaton, Brooke White, Joyce Sargent, Maureen and Kelly Staples, Joshua White, Francis Maliute, Douglas White, Brenda White, Daniel Gervais, Byron Batiste and Colleen Batiste, Ryan Batiste, Janice Corey, Denise Corey, Robert Corey, Tim Cameron, Bob Tobin, David Middleton, George Raymond, Randy White, Rhonda Pierce, Nancy Wood, Linda White, Martin White, Douglas White, Sarah Wild, Stephanie Meyer, Alexander Wild, Annette Smith, William Ross, Penelope Viscusi and James Viscusi, Lynn Bondurant, Gary Durr, Lauren Dever, William Richardson, Gary Breen, Georgia Breen, Wilma Loomis, and Andrea and Ed Stair. So that is 77 signatures, which is the required number, to call for a special vote to reconsider. So, in order to follow the letter of the law, we need to hold a vote on this, and the town attorney has prepared a special town meeting warning that says the legal voters of the town of Danby, Vermont are hereby warned and notified to meet at the Danby Town Office, 130 Brook Road, Danby, Vermont, on May 17th to reconsider the March 1, 2022 annual town meeting vote on the following article. Article 8. Shall the voters authorize the select board to appoint a collector of delinquent taxes pursuant to 17 VSA subsection 265(1)D. Voting will be conducted by Australian ballot. Polls are open from 7 to 7. Legal voters are further warned that a public informational hearing on this article will occur at the Courier Memorial School, 234 North Main Street, Danby, Vermont, on May 16th, 2022 at 7 p.m. So we have a warning to sign for that.
Now, is that the question that, I thought there was going to be two questions on that.
No, there can only be reconsideration of a question that was actually on the ballot.
Okay, so
So the question of setting a salary would need to be on next year's town meeting, and we would have to, at budget time in November, discuss a salary. If this article passes again. If it's defeated, then it continues the way it is with the delinquent tax collector getting 8%.
Well, we could still vote on that.
So how is it, is that worded different than the last time it was?
Yes, because there was a mix-up on...
Oh, on the statute.
On the statute number.
Because everybody knows the statutes, and it confused them.
Right.
You didn't have the right one listed?
And it confused you?
Yes.
Beth?
I wasn't confused, but I know some people were confused, and it didn't have to do with the statute number. Would you mind reading the content of the petition itself? Because I think it explains, for the record, why the people are signing that petition and asking for it to be reconsidered.
We, the undersigned legal voters of Danby, Vermont, do hereby petition the Danby Select Board to call a special meeting to have the voters reconsider the question posed in Article 8. The wording on the March ballot was unclear in its intent, incorrectly cited in incorrect statute, and insufficient information was provided to the voters by the Select Board. Article 8 did not make it clear that appointment was an alternative to an elected delinquent tax collector position. It is reasonable that some voters assumed that they had to pass Article 8 for the Select Board to appoint the individual they were electing by ballot. The statute referred to in Article 8 was not cited correctly. The correct citation is 32 VSA subsection 1674. That statute refers to the method by which delinquent tax fees and penalties are established, and is not about how a delinquent tax collector is chosen. The statute to cite for the town to change from an elected to an appointed delinquent tax collector is 17 VSA 2651D. The Select Board provided no information on how much an appointed position would be paid or from what budget line the position would draw. Taxpayers need to know how an appointed delinquent tax collector would be paid compared to the current pay arrangement, which does not rely on taxpayer dollars from the town's budget. Voters cannot properly assess the options without information on both revenues and expenses. Therefore, we, the undersigned legal voters of the town of Danby, Vermont, hereby request the select board call a special meeting to have voters reconsider by Australian ballot the following article. Article 8, shall the voters authorize the select board to appoint a collector of delinquent taxes pursuant to 17 VSA subsection 1674. So even though the voters passed this article 310 to 222, apparently 77 people feel that it should be reconsidered, and we are obligated to do that.
Thank you for reading it.
You're welcome.
Because I think some people that voted for the tax collector position, the actual person, also voted on this, not realizing what they were doing. So
Well, that's anybody's interpretation.
Well,
So we need to abide by the law, have an election, which is,
I guess the only thing I want to point out on that is it's going to be 8% regardless, and half the Senate's on that was dealing with the funding of if it's an appointed or elected, it's still going to be the 8%.
right.
The election, or didn't deal with that because that was never actually put into there, so that it's their confusion on how it was going to be funded was the same way it's always been funded.
meaning that the person gets paid 8% of the delinquent taxes.
If they're appointed or elected.
So then one begs the question of why would you bother making it an appointment instead of an election in the first place?
You would get a little bit more board control on an issue of when things should be tax saled and how long they kick down the road. I mean, the intent totally was to get the 8% out because of the fact that 8% is way too much for the amount of time that is extended in collecting taxes nowadays.
Now I'm confused, because you said it was going to remain 8%.
It is for this year. For this year, it is. But I'm saying the revote is saying they're confused on how it's being funded, but it's still the 8% on the revote.
It's still funded from the fees from the
Okay,
taxes.
yeah.
So now it is
Maybe
confusing,
this is-
Beth, and I know why. I try not to make it sound, but I was just pointing out that half of their statement there was on the funding of it, which is, the funding didn't change either way.
Well, and part of for me, I mean, I felt like I did know what I was voting on, and so I voted the way I wanted to vote. Because I wasn't comfortable attending the informational town meeting, and it wasn't available in any other way, because even after the fact, because PEG TV had other obligations, they couldn't be there, so you couldn't watch anything about the information if you weren't willing to attend that meeting. And I'm immune compromised. I'm still a little shy about going into rooms with a bunch of people, so especially if many of them are going to be unmasked. So I don't know, I just wish there was a better way to educate folks before a vote.
Well, if people had questions, they certainly could have picked up the telephone or written an email and asked their questions, couldn't they?
I guess if you don't know, yeah. Well,
People
I guess
want to
that,
be involved, too.
go ahead, what?
I think people have to want to be involved and get information too. So-
Yeah, but if you think you're understanding something, but it turns out you're not, well, okay, whatever, moving on.
Okay, so we do
Thank you.
have to have this election. We need to sign this warning, and we have a decision that we need to make this evening as to whether or not we will be using the tabulator and having those printed kind of cardboard ballots that would cost another $820. or if we will just print a single sheet of paper and put them in the ballot box.
And we're gonna, by statute, we have to mail the ones again?
Yes.
So,
So the costs involved in this, the only thing that we can really decide on right now is the $820 to print ballots that go through a tabulator or run off a paper ballot with this question on it, which would involve the expense for 2 reams of paper. The other fixed costs are $560 for postage and ballot clerks, which will cost $1,160.
You don't need to use the tabulator, it's just one vote.
Exactly, that's my feeling. But this is for the board to decide. So I need a motion that either says to authorize the use of the tabulator or to authorize the use of paper ballots.
I'll make the motion that we use paper ballots that we print up.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so it will be paper ballots. The warning is being signed. That will be published and sent out. Then we will move on to old business. And Beth, I believe you have some information for us.
I do. So,
Where did
my
that
glasses
go?
keep falling off. I had spoken to a bunch of different towns, and I got back to several of them, and got their advice, and also learned about what their policies and procedures are, and then Tinmouth actually had a written policy kind of thing for their meetings. And what I did was I synthesized those, these glasses, and I have some copies here of a draft policy and procedure. Whoops.
Made copies and everything,
I did!
Thank
And I
you.
actually have enough for this little group that we got here. You're welcome.
Thank you.
There we go.
No, this is Timothy's, is it?
No, this is what I came up with based on other advice that people offered me in addition. To some of this was in Tinmouth's and some of it wasn't. So I'm going to read it aloud for the record. This would be a draft policy and procedure for remote attendance at select board meetings. Remote access to select board meetings, while not required by law, is offered in order to encourage access and participation for as many of our town's citizens as possible. So that's basically just a statement of intention. It is understood that a select board meeting is a meeting open to the public, but not a public meeting per se. Business is conducted and votes are cast by board members. Therefore, public comment offered outside the public comment period must be made only by recognition of the chair. To maintain order, as well as the efficiency of the meeting, the following operational standards for remote participation will be required, or remote participants. Number 1, remote participants will be muted by online host upon joining the meeting, remaining so unless recognized to speak. 2, intention or desire to speak in order to comment or ask questions will be indicated by use of the hand-raising function of the remote platform. Number 3, people will be recognized in the order in which the hand-raising function is activated. Online host will alert the chair to the presence of remote questions, comments. 4, remote participants, when recognized, will unmute their device and identify themselves with clearly spoken first and last name. And I think it would probably be good if, as Chris Hardaway did when he stood up to make his public comment at the beginning, if anybody in the public is saying something, that is going to make it a lot easier on Drea and others who are listening. But in any case, okay. So the people have to identify themselves. Number 5, comment or question will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, after which participant will remute themselves. 6, general ground rules concerning decorum remain the same as that which is expected of citizens, guests, and board members attending in person. Namely, the speaker will not be interrupted and will not interrupt other speakers. The speaker will treat the proceedings and other speakers with dignity and respect, addressing the issue and not personalities. Procedures for use of the online platform and the above standards should be reviewed at the beginning of each meeting. So that's kind of a template. I tried to be as inclusive of things as possible. I put more in rather than less, just to kind of cover all the bases on the kinds of things we felt were out of control.
Right.
What it presupposes, and what all of these people have suggested, is that you have somebody who's kind of the online master of ceremonies, so that the chair doesn't have to pay attention to a computer screen. So you would have to appoint who that person is. I have a couple of other things that I wanted to talk about in terms of the logical next steps here. And they would be, I'm feeling like because of the overwhelming vote of the people of the town that they want this remote access, that we should act on it as soon as possible. You should act on it, actually. And that means bringing and passing a motion stating your intent to reinstigate remote access. And I would hope that that could happen tonight. I'd love it, and I think we could make this happen because I'm really invested in this and I'm willing to help, by the next select board meeting on May 12th. You would need to also approve funds for whatever online platform you're going to use. I know you had a GoToMeeting account. Does that still exist? Is it still active?
Yes.
And when does that run out?
We just renewed it.
Oh, you did? Perfect. Okay. So what you need is just somebody who is familiar with that. I could volunteer to do it in the short term, but I'd rather you find someone else for the long term. I'm willing to learn how to be the person that keeps track of whose hand is raised and how that's all working. But that's something you would have to do. That doesn't have to happen tonight. That could happen sometime in the interim between now and the next select board meeting. You need to adopt policies and procedures. You could choose to move a motion that adopts this draft with the caveat that it might need some fine tuning and certainly troubleshooting as we begin to reinstigate remote access. If we find that there's something that really needs to be in here that isn't, we would add it. You would add it. I'm invested here. You can tell. I know. Look at you. You're laughing at me. All right. So some of these things could happen right away, but some of them need to happen in the interim period. Another thing I would love to do to make it even better than it was in the past, most people have some kind of camera and or microphone that then really picks up not only you all, but anybody who then speaks in the room. And those things are now, this is according to Rob Giotti, who I went to visit the other day down in East Dorset, probably are covered by these ARPA funds, that we could get such a camera and such a microphone, and even if you so choose, a flat screen so that you could see who's on the call, you know, and when that person is speaking, you could see them, so there'd be more interaction in that way. That's not necessary, and that's also not a decision that has to be made immediately. It doesn't even have to be made before the next select board meeting. I mean, I'm thinking get something going, something up and running, and then have a point person on the select board. I'm looking at you, Tommy Fuller, and I would be very willing to work with that person to just fine tune things and put it together so we can get it going. I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
Comments?
I think it's pretty thorough. Anything anyone want to add or discuss on it?
I'd just like more time to look at it.
I guess I would like to, as Beth said, make the, I guess I'd like to get it up and running, not by next meeting, but by the next meeting. That way we've got it. So
maybe find out what we've got.
so that we can, and so everybody can for any comments or additions. I mean, I think you did a great job of covering pretty much everything that I can think of at the moment.
That was well written, yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, that was well written. What concerns me is this business about the hand raising. There's a time for public comment.
Right.
And I think that needs to be tied in with the hand raising. We're not going to have select board meetings that turn out the way they did when we were using that procedure.
So you want to change that in the...
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
no, and
It's
that's
not for, if the public has something to say about anything on the agenda, they have their time to say it up there.
Well, but just the way this meeting has worked tonight, there have been points at which a question wanted to be asked from here, or, you know, a comment added. And I'm wondering if we can somehow
If we
accommodate
have,
that.
yeah, we had 4 people in the audience tonight. But if all of a sudden we have 100 people on a meeting and everybody has their hand up, that makes very
Maybe
long
that makes for
meeting.
some kind of different
And that's
meeting.
why it needs to be addressed, that public comment is there. So that if somebody has something to say about fleet permits and they feel that XYZ company has, you know, violated fleet permits in the past or whatever, they say it up front. Because we've had this happen before too, with
So
certain people.
does that mean you're gonna deny someone who's in a remote access situation?
If they want to say it
Asking
at the
something,
inappropriate
anything,
time.
Well, it's just a question of what makes it appropriate or inappropriate. Like if as Rob Giotti was telling me, often he's, you know, at a certain point after something's been discussed by the select board, sees there are 2 hands raised, because most often there aren't that many people attending remotely.
Which is why I feel the whole thing is a great expenditure for little return.
I have a question. Could it be navigated that beginning of the meeting it's stated during public comment if anybody has a comment about any of these topics, just to be reminded the purpose of it, and then add somewhere in there during discussion of these, if there's any comments, we'll accept 3 of them, like put some type of limitation on it so there isn't.
Does the go-to have a chat bar? Like
Yeah,
Zoom, you can type in a question on the side, so if somebody had something that was really relevant, they could type that in, so it could be.
Right, and just, you know, say at the end of the meeting, like public comment is if anybody has any remarks that they, you know, like Chris had said about anything that's being discussed, just reminded that you have the open platform to speak it, so then it's on all your minds when the topic is discussed.
right, that's what I'm saying, that's why we have.
But
the
if-
public-
That's why you have the public comment up front.
But if you had, you know, discussed something and then somebody had, you know, like a quick question, like Beth had said sometimes we just need a minute of clarification, if it was in there of, you know, we'll accept X amount during the meeting to keep it to a limit.
Greg?
My only comment, sometimes when you guys have your discussion, sometimes it doesn't prompt questions from people who are here, and I understand your point too, Brian, I don't know how you control it, I get what you're saying, if 50 people want to ask a question, you're never gonna get anywhere.
Exactly.
But you guys do talk, and it does spur, like, sometimes a question that you didn't think of when you read the public comment. I didn't have a lot to say when I read the public comment, but sometimes you guys talk, it does.
Up until 15 or 20 years ago, we had a select board with 3 people on it, and then it was said, well, you don't have enough representation, so a question was put on the ballot, and the select board expanded to 5 people. And if this keeps going like this, we're gonna have 100 people. And it's not very productive.
Well, I guess we're probably gonna Like Tom said, by next meeting, we're gonna have to, we come up with a draft policy and try it.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically what you're trying to do is just tweak
Exactly.
that one or two areas. I mean, I think 99% of that is
Yeah, because I would hate
spot.
to make a blanket disallowance of any kind of public, what do I want to say, participation as the meeting is progressing. But say it's a hot topic and you've got a lot of people online, you could choose to limit their statement to.
And I think
you know,
something has to be put in
minute
there
or minute and a
that
half.
if you violate this, it's done.
Well,
'Cause I'm not gonna,
I hate to put the punitive stuff up front and personal, but I mean, if you feel you need to do that, then that's what you do. The person who is actually being your go-to meeting meister or whatever, if you want, the online host is what I chose to call it in that paper, can make it clear that if you cannot abide by these rules, that you will be muted and then you will be disallowed from entering another meeting in the future. I mean, we could say that that's, you know, the consequence of not abiding by the rules we all learned in kindergarten. You know?
That's-
Yeah. So,
I guess it's the school teacher in me coming out, but
Yeah.
that's, you
yeah.
know, that's how we live in an organized.
But I'm wondering, so,
respectful
and I
society.
came at that, I thought about that, and I thought, you know, what I'm trying to do here is put out the expectation that everyone wants to behave this way, right? And then if we have people that are not, then that person who is the online host needs to take them out. And they have that, you know, I mean, the host of the meeting has the ability to mute the person that's speaking. So if they get abusive, or if they go on too long, or whatever, they warn them, your time is almost up, ba-da-da. If they keep going, or if they're harassing anyone else, then they're, you know.
I think as long as we have provision to be, okay, as a board, we're moving on, and this is the end of that discussion, even though there's still hands raised, without causing a lot of
yes,
conflict.
and that, see, a lot of this has got to be at the discretion of the board and the chair saying, you know, we can only take 10 more comments. Thank you.
And
But, you know,
see,
'cause
I guess my thought is, and it used to be the way, you know, we always did it, is if it was important enough where you were that involved, typically you would show up. I mean, you're the prime example. You wear your mask, you show up, you participate. I mean, you're making an effort to do that because you care about this so much.
I can't tell you how relieved I was that this room was so empty tonight, though, because really,
Yeah. But I'm saying I don't think that we typically get a large crowd anyways. And I'm just saying that it's a lot easier to conduct. I mean, you're doing a great job in person, and I've told you that in the past, is you're not nearly as persuasive or articulate on the computer as in person. So that being said, that's how
I'm
it's...
not. Sorry. Yeah, so,
But no, I mean, we're gonna move forward with it. I understand Brad's reservations on making sure we keep the rules. You know, it almost seems like strict.
yeah, and I think laying it out at if there are online participants present remotely, that those things all get read out loud again, that it's just, and it's published somewhere on the town website, and it's just basically, these are our norms, and this is what we expect.
Could you even add like a caveat to that? If you are participating remotely, you are agreeing that you've read these guidelines and are agreeing to follow them?
I mean, we could go that far.
Just by
that's a
saying
good
if you
idea.
are participating remotely, then you have agreed that you've read them and that you're willing to.
Is that like checking the box that you agreed to the cookies?
Essentially. But just to be be clear of like, yes, you read them, so if you violate them and then you're like, well, why am I being silenced? Then you know, you understand it. Same way here in person, if you get unruly, you're told to remove yourself.
No, that's a great,
So would they actually have had to read them or
or at least click the box.
check the box because
Or, you
you're
know,
hearing it?
do your honor system and saying like, if you're participating remotely, we are under the understanding that you've
That
read
you have accepted these
that you have
rules.
accepted them, and if you know, do something that's not qualified and then you question it, well, you said you read them and you understood what was gonna happen
Yeah.
and how it was gonna be conducted.
Yeah.
You know, this is your,
I think that would be a great last sentence, but still have it read orally at the beginning of every
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah.
I think you did a great job of putting a lot of it together for us, so I'm appreciative of it.
Yeah.
I think by next meeting, we should finalize the policy so that we can go live with it for the June meeting.
That
Sounds
sounds
like a
reasonable.
plan.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think pushing it next meeting would be,
Then that way,
we can get all our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we'll know what,
I mean, even if we have everything
So we got
put together,
that.
so we have an accounting of all our, because we do need to get a computer.
well, that's
And-
it, we got some things we gotta buy.
Yeah,
too.
and so we'll have everything so that we can definitely, be online for the June meeting.
Okay, and I'd be happy to be sort of helper consultant on whoever is gonna organize what equipment you think you need.
Have you experience with GoToMeeting?
I don't have as much experience with that as I do with Zoom, but I'm sure I could learn it. I did try to get on there the other day for a free trial for 2 weeks, and it would not accept the passcode that they had emailed me, and I did it 2 different times, 2 different passcodes, and it didn't accept it, and I was like, I don't like you. So, I don't know. But I'm happy to learn it. And I'm volunteering just because I know you're gonna need somebody, but if you've got somebody in mind who's tech savvy and thinks they can, who was doing it before?
Kathy?
Yeah,
Yeah, Kathy was, I think. She did it for the 3 times or 4 times we did it. Yeah.
So, I don't know whether you wanna ask her if she'd like to do that, or,
I doubt it, but.
but as I say, I'm happy to learn it. I would hope that sometime down the road you find somebody else to do it.
isn't that part of her work day?
But I'm willing to be very pragmatic about, no, this is what you do here, and you follow these rules.
Yeah, no,
well,
I,
that has to be a given.
I'm very appreciative of the fact that you've renewed the GoToMeeting account. That tells me things are moving on the road and down the road, and I think that's good.
Well, and it can be used for other things too.
But just to honor the public vote, and which really was a mandate, that many passing by, what was it, 240 something votes was major. So I think it was in last month.
It passed by 246 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Okay, any other old business? Okay, moving on to new business, we want to discuss dump
Should we set a
day.
date? If we're gonna have dump day, should we
Yeah.
set a date?
So the question is, do we want to have dump day? Do we want to have 1? Do we want to have 2? We used to have 2 and then it got shrunk down to 1 for the last couple of years for reasons that we don't need to recite. And
But
we used,
think it worked better with 2 when we had 2, or was, and you were on the board when we were.
well, you know, we did that for a long, long time. We had 1 in June or end of May and 1 in September usually, so that people could throw out the broken lawn furniture. I mean, why don't we decide on at least 1 now for
so let's get
June,
one more
and
in
then
June.
if we
Yeah.
feel that we want another one in the fall, we can always do that. So, Jennifer was on board taking the money last year, and she said that she and Michelle are willing to do that again.
Who said Michelle?
Michelle Petrossi. They are not available on June 11th, so we'd be looking at Saturday, June 4th, or Saturday, June 18th, or possibly the 25th. I kind of think the 4th is a nice day, because I think we used to have them in May at one point.
Yeah. Be early. I would
And
go
it's
to the
hopefully not too hot by then, and people are doing their spring cleaning and...
I make a motion, we set it for June 4th.
I'll second that. You get in toward the later part, and then you get people that are gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion for June 4th. Is there a second?
Kenny did.
Yeah, I second it.
Kenny? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. And what about, we might just as well address this now, setting the rate of pay for the people that work there.
What did we pay him last year?
I'm not positive.
Well, I guess we can.
What's fair? 16? I mean, we gotta pay him by the hour, or we just?
Yeah, no, we paid them by the hour.
I mean,
We could just say the same rate of pay as last year.
Well, did it meet minimum wage?
Why don't we have a table that, we'll set the rate of pay.
Okay, we can do that, yeah, we have another meeting. Okay.
Yeah,
And then.
because if it was
we can
12 and it's gone up to 12.50, I hate to say that we're,
And plus that'll give us.
It was more than that.
We can look at the rates that we charged for last year too, so we
Yeah,
get,
well, and that's the other thing too.
so yeah, I think we should do that next year.
Our rates are very low, and there's a whole school of thinking about, you know, the town loses a lot of money on it, but yet our roadsides are cleaner and,
Yeah, I mean, we gotta set.
well, that was the thing, is we didn't ever bring it in for the money. It was to try to keep the town crew from having to pick up for months of crap.
I think it's just good that we review the rates anyways.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do
So we can
too.
post them.
Yeah, because certain things may have substantially gone up, I'm
Well,
not
that's a good
sure.
thing, you know, we can check with Casella, because say like refrigerators, if all of a sudden there's a
Right.
fire fee on them or something.
I do know right now with Casella, if you're getting rid of like paints or any of that stuff, they're just asking for appointments because they're so short-staffed. They just need to make sure they have people there when they bring in the crowd. But they're still accepting everything.
Okay, pay rate and check prices. Okay, any other new business? I guess then it's time for that glorious motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn at 8:30. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.